Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another one of our Part 2 webinars. If you are joining for the first time, my name is Andile, the International Marketing Manager, and I am joined today by Anthony, who is my partner in all great things. And so welcome, and we'll just wait for a few people to join. And in the meantime, I'll just let Anto to introduce himself.
Sure. Hello, everyone. Very happy to be here. Thank you, Ndile, for this invitation. So I'm a local SEO expert at Part2 for more than 5 years now, and I support multi-location companies to grow their sales both online and offline, thanks to our strategy. So I will have the pleasure to give you a bit of knowledge about this great study that we have conducted lately.
Awesome. Thank you, Anto. We'll just give literally a second just to see if we get more connections before we go ahead. Okay, more people are connecting. Right. So before we get started, I just want to give you a little intro of Part 2. If this is your first time in one of our webinars, Part 2 is a multinational company. We've been around since 2014. We are assisting companies of all sizes with their drive to store strategy, helping businesses to get closer to their clients. Today, we're a company of 450 people with offices in Barcelona as well as Paris, and we are serving 150 countries with 200,000 points of sale. It's just interesting to note that we also have a 80 to 100% growth per year. And if you're unaware of our product offerings, as of just last year, we introduced the Messages and Store Locator product as well. So for the agenda today, we are going to look at 4 particular sections. One, which will introduce the local searches in the consumer journey. This is really what we're here for, to look at how to make consumers the center of our business, and to look at the local impact of reviews on your digital reputation. So helping you to look at how we can build a better e-reputation and attract more consumers and be chosen online. And then we'll go into the user's actions when buying. So particularly at a point online, and looking how they get to your stores. Finally, we look at some tips and ways to enhance your e-reputation, particularly with satisfied clients. So what we're really here for today is our study, which was, just to give you some background on it, it was produced this year with an independent agency called Episto Institute. And what we did is collected surveys based on 3,200 respondents across Europe. And these ages were between 18 and 64. And the study that was carried out, it was really to get an insight on how consumers perceive online reviews and how then that perceives how they perceive your business online. So really, to get into it, it's to ask ourselves when we start with the local search in terms of the beginning of the consumer journey. Very recently, Google released 3 important moments that we define as micro moments, and which separate each and every step that's carried out by the consumer online. And during this journey, we see that it begins with the search that are conducted online, as well as in the end concludes with the eventual purchase, which is what we all obviously want to see in our business and grow sales. During the presentation, we'll explore these micro moments in parts. And just to begin, we're going to start with the I want to know moment. So the I want to know moment is particularly when a consumer is doing the research. Maybe at this point, they're not aware of what they want to buy or where to buy it, but they start to explore. So during the presentation, we will see that the I want to know moments marks the beginning of the customer journey, and the information they find on Google search and other search engines will determine how they continue and they proceed. Now, in our study, we see that 88% of respondents indicate that Google is their primary source for doing a local search. This is the number one platform by far. The search engine is very ingrained in the minds of all consumers, and the ecosystem is optimized just for the local searches, connecting companies with their potential customers. This is a crucial thing for local establishments to note and take advantage of. So typically in Europe, we see that young people use Instagram twice as more as the older generation of the, say, 45 to 64-year-olds. You can see the clear discrepancy that there is 36% of the respondents versus the 15% that say that they use Instagram, for example, to do their local searches. But what about the other digital platforms? So we know that we've noted that Google is the number one. But to go into it a little bit further, interestingly, Instagram is by far a fast trend for the 18 to 34-year-old group. And we see that in this trend, respondents use this network to conduct their search against the 15%, like I mentioned earlier on, of the older group. And we also see that Facebook, so much so, is used much more by the older generation, being at 28% of the respondents. Finally, we also see a much smaller ratio in terms of the utilization of Apple Maps, where people that were surveyed say that 12% of them would use Apple Maps, would rely on Apple Maps to do their local search. So to introduce you to the very first poll of today, we would like to know what you use to do your search. So I'm going to publish a poll, and I invite everyone that's in the room to just respond and tell me what is their main platform to use. So I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to let everyone else give me a response.
I did answer too, but I think actually one might be missing. It would be TikTok. We have actually seen lately that some restaurants are now giving some information about opening hours or even a review. Yeah. So it's a new platform to be considered in the local search, not right now, but in the very near future, hopefully, because those tests are in Asia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, I think personally for me, I'm not yet there with TikTok, but I think the younger, even generations, groups that are older than me are using TikTok, and it's definitely booming. But I see some results have come through, and of course, lo and behold, Google is at 76% of the people that are in this room that rely on Google to conduct their search, all the way to, okay, so the winnings are Google, Instagram at 12%, and then we see that Facebook is only 2 people are using Facebook for their local search. And then finally, Apple Maps, and 0 for New Bing. So maybe at our next webinar, we'll have a look, see what New Bing is about, and the new ways of doing search. So I'm just going to pass it over to Anton now, who will take us to the next block.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Andy. That's interesting for the New Bing that no one is there yet, since all the integration and the buzz around ChatGPT, but that clearly shows something. Yeah. Now that we have talked a lot about numbers, I will bring your attention to the differentiation between the 2 types of local searches that currently exist. Since February 20, Google has changed the way it understands local searches. We already knew it, so we changed it in our API to reflect those changes. As the focus now of these local searches are the keywords used to find the local searches, they are divided between brand and discovery. So for the brand searches, all of them are what we call direct. Either consumers know the exact place that they want to go and perform the search to get information about specific information such as address or opening hours. or the consumer will know the specific product or services that they want to buy from you, from a specific brand, but they still have to explore some option about the stores where they could find your brand. So they will type the name of your brand in the local search. On the other hand, we will have the discovery searches in which the user finds your location through a random search that is not directly linked to you or your brand awareness or your product and service. They're going to type a category, an attribute, a name, or generic products and services directly on the search. So since we're talking also about local surveys today, I'd like to share the 2023 local positioning rankings released by Whitespark before. So this ranking is based on interviews conducted on many topics to determine what works when it comes to boosting local SEO rankings and conversion. In the top three, as you can notice, we have firstly the factors related to the Google listings. So the optimization linked to the advanced feature of Google. It's about 32% of them. Secondly, we have the criteria that are found within your listing. It's about 19% of them. And then the reviews, 16%, as this is one of the most important criteria that will influence the ranking, but also the conversion in your listing. So we have GBP signals. If we go into detail with proximity, categories, keywords in the name of the company, etc. We will have also the on-page signals with the signals on your Google Business Profile, but also on your website. So the NAP consistency, we need to have correct and consistent information across all platforms online. Your keywords in the title tag on your website, your domain authority, etc. And lastly, we will have the review signals. So first and third-party reviews, the number of reviews, the speed of response to the reviews, not to forget the average rating. We will also notice that the review have maintained the weight of importance in the algorithm over the last few years, always appearing in the top 5 criteria in the ranking factors. An important insight to leave is that you don't need to get a burst of thousands of reviews and conclude that the job is done on your profiles, because Google will always favor a business that is continually receiving reviews, and this will reflect actually the activity of the business in real life. It is weird to get 50 reviews in one day and then for the next 3 months to get absolutely no reviews. So review acquisition needs to be an integrated and ongoing part of your marketing strategy. On this point, we will explore greater this later. So I have also, like Andile, a question for you. In your strategy, how important are reviews? On a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being very little and 5 being very important. How would you rate this strategy and the collection of reviews? You have the poll right there that you can answer.
It would be almost a shame if we didn't mention that as a platform that offers assistance with managing your e-reputation, Part 2 is also very conscious of what is said by both employees and clients of ours in terms of our listing and what their feedback is and how we get to understand how our clients are satisfied or not. And so reviews, I would say, as a marketing manager of Part 2, is a very important thing for us too. So far in my actions, I would definitely rate it like a 4.5 Part 2, definitely.
Yeah, me too. So I see that we have most of the respondents are saying that it's actually important. So we still have a 3 in the response for two people. So for you, I don't know why yet it's not a part of the strategy, but as the study is showing out, it should be something that you could act on in the very near future to improve your performances. That's a great thing that you're not managing that now. It means that you have a lot to gain in terms of performance. So feel free to reach out and we'll be able to discuss that together if you want to.
Awesome.
So just to close maybe this first block, we are going to present a success story of a Part2 client, which is called Havaianas, who had excellent results by investing in this effective local SEO strategy and reputation strategy. So the three main objectives were to strengthen the digital strategy in preparation for the high seasons. That was summer at the time. They wanted to have a single solution to coordinate all of their Google Business Profile at once because they had 7 countries to manage, which is a lot. And they wanted to improve the local SEO, of course. So in terms of results, over 80 listings have been created and claimed, because one thing that you may know is that it's difficult to clean the Google Map data. Sometimes there is a lot of duplicates or unclaimed listings that are free in the nature. So we help them to manage that. Also, we trained the network, meaning that all country managers were trained about the projects to make them more autonomous so that they can manage in their own market all the data and all the optimizations with an overview for the central and HQ. Compared to the previous period, we managed to help them to improve by 138% the number of queries on which they appear, by 154% the number of views for their profiles, and in terms of action, we had them to almost double them with 98% of increase. They also managed to improve a lot the communication with the local customer thanks to the use of Google Posts, which are highly seen. So if you have a strategy in your website to give a lot of content, to write blog articles, always think that you can easily display them on your Google Business Profiles. It will drive more traffic to those specific articles. So if you want more information about this full success case, please don't hesitate to go to our Part2 blog. There is a lot of insight and resources there. We now will jump to the impact of the reviews on your digital reputation. We previously understood that there is the I want to know moment that Andile was talking about in the moment of exploration of the user, where they are not yet willing to buy at the moment. So now we will come to the next phase, which is I want to go moment, which is located in the evaluation and decision stage. If your content did a good job previously in the I want to know moment, usually your business will make it to the local pack and you will rank higher in the results. At this stage, the comparison between different providers are going to be really key. It can include things like your product features, your services, package, your prices, but also the reviews that you have. So let's maybe now do a short recap. Your brand understood that the consumer journey starts with the digital through local searches. Now you have optimized the local strategy, you have worked on the Google Business Profile optimization, such as attributes, categories, NAP consistency, etc. As a result, your stores now began to climb the rankings and it will appear on the local pack being more visible where the user stopped the search and usually click. As a result of that strategy, you start to receive more traffic, more direction requests, more messages, more phone calls, and you start to get a dimension of the impact of this local strategy. So you now need help to help the consumer to choose wisely, and choosing wisely means choosing you over the competition. This is where the review come in as a deciding factor. And I believe that now, Andy, you have more to tell us about that.
Yes, to just go back to the research that was conducted, we will look here particularly at the most important criteria when consumers are choosing a local business based on reviews. This was really from the respondents that came through. So when respondents are looking, they found that the most important criteria for choosing a local business, in their opinion, firstly, was the reviews received in question. And this was at 46%. And Then when they're choosing a local business, again, then what we've mentioned before as well is the distance in terms of local search, of course, is when you're looking at the distance between the person, the user, as well as the establishment. Finally, the final decision factor as well is then the brand search that is conducted. And this is only at 14%. So just to stress how much reviews are important, we see the major influence that they have. And we see that over the years, this has grown more and more. In addition to this study, of course, to corroborate this statement is just to note that 76% of respondents admit that a review that is left by a customer has a great weight on their decision to go to an establishment, and only 7% on average say that it has no impact at all. So now, with regards to the reviews, we want to go a little bit deeper and see what are the first things that they look at when they're looking at a review. So this is obviously people that are already depending on reviews, and then the signals that they look out for when they're looking at a review. So, of course, the most recent reviews can really reflect the true idea of the business at the time. If you think about it, sometimes it's the listings are categorized by most relevant, but then the most recent can give you a true idea of the business itself at that point. I mean, we'd like to think that all businesses are concerned about improving their services at all times. And so you wouldn't rely on something from 2014. You would probably find a review that's more credible in the recent months or years. And then 19%, apologies, particularly say that negative reviews are the first thing that they look at. Of course, we can always assume that businesses will get positive reviews. This is what, of course, we want to know. When we know where we want to go, we look out for what could be the things that we need to look out for, which is really reflected in the negative reviews that are left by businesses. But of course, this is not the only thing that that users are relying on. We also see that 15%, apologies, look at the most relevant reviews, like I mentioned. So depending on what they're looking for at the time that they're looking for it, this will reflect in the relevant reviews. And finally, you see almost a similar weighting across the reviews with photos as well as the positive reviews. Our inference from this data really says that it's to specify that positive and negative reviews are not perhaps the only thing that users are depending on. Perhaps the best way of an idea for a local establishment to consult for businesses when they're consulting a local establishment is to consult a variety of these reviews, both the negative as well as the positive, which are reflected on the listings. However, negative reviews really are those that businesses should make a priority and make a priority to follow. And this is then the most important, the most striking in this instance is that the ones that retain a good, that can manage to retain a good reputation are the ones that are focusing on responding to negative reviews. And that is why we will just go again deeper onto the idea around negative reviews. So really, when we look at negative reviews, like I mentioned, it is only at 19%. But what's really interesting is how a business responds to their particular negative reviews. What we've seen here, interestingly enough, it's almost a 50-50% split between respondents who said that they would still go to an establishment where they see that a business has responded to a negative review. So they are still willing to go. And so we see here it's only a small difference between 49% who say yes, they would, and 51% say no. So it's really quite striking, this kind of information. And so why we look at the frequency in terms of what the respondents and look out for with the responses, we consider what these respondents have said about this. So when it comes to responding to a negative review, we found that 56% say that they always read these responses from the businesses, and 25% say they often do look at these responses, and 16% say sometimes they consult the responses from the owners, and finally 3%, only 3% say they never look at these responses. So when you see that always looking is at 56%, we understand that just a typical you and me, if you put yourself in the consumer's mind, you realize that this really does influence how you are perceived. And looking now, really, it's not just about your e-reputation, but really about your local SEO as well. So when you are responding to reviews, you give Google a good signal, and you see that there's more interaction with customers, helping you to also rank higher on the search engine. In addition, really constructive response from of a negative review can help you improve your brand. This goes without saying, of course. Like it's one thing to have a really great brand and be well known, but it's another thing when you are perceived to care about your consumer, to put your consumer at the center. And this is really what can shift between yourself and your competitor. So among the young people, this is even more true. I mean, 58% of them say that they are willing to go back to an establishment post a response from the owner around a negative review. And that number drops a little bit more in terms of the older group. They would say that 45% of them say that they're willing to then revisit that particular business. So I'd like to point out the day-to-day job that one has to do when it comes to managing reviews. And this obviously is not an easy task. And this is why we always recommend to use a platform that makes it easy for you to manage your e-reputation on a day-to-day basis. So really some of the other indicators that we see here is really regarding the frequency around the users' responses to establishments that they give to negative reviews. To go deeper onto the negative reviews, 75% say 75% of our respondents say that an average rating and reviews have a direct impact on their decision making. So just to go back to what an average rating is, those are the reviews that don't have comments. So you land on the listing, you see a 3.5, that's a rating out of 5. And then when you go into the listing and there's an area for reviews, you get a deeper understanding of what that is. And some people will really stop their search at the rating stage if they look at the average rating on Google, for example. But some people will take the interest to go further. So those are the 72% that say they will not visit an establishment with a rating below 3.5. So I don't know, like for me, I always say this, and my standard still stays at this, which is my standard says 4.2, particularly for a restaurant. When it comes to visiting a restaurant, I'm very fussy about that. And my average rating is 4.2. And I wouldn't visit a restaurant or give it a chance when I'm traveling, especially if it's lower than 4.2. Anto, I don't know how this is for you.
Yeah, for me, I would say it's a minimum of 4. I would not be as picky as you with 4.2, but I would say 4 with a lot of review to justify it. For me, what is really important is the volume and the number of review to make sure that it's actually accurate and that it's not just a fake score, you know.
Yeah. I think at some point I'm going to introduce the poll to the rest of the group as well. Yeah. So really, what I want to do is go back and let the team, then the people in the group, to just answer that as well for us. So I'm going to introduce the next poll and ask you if you would be willing to visit a store after just if you put yourselves in the mind of a consumer, take your managerial hat off, your working hat off, and step outside and say to me, would you go back to an establishment after seeing a response, the respondents of the response from the owner? So I'm going to publish that poll also.
I think on my side, if I got food poison, for instance, in a restaurant, I would not go there. But for other kind of experience, I think I might be. Remember, I don't know if you remember, Andile, but one time we were visiting clients in Belgium and we stayed at a hotel that was not that great.
Yes.
A lot of noise. It was a bit terrible. So I actually left a review that was not super good, but not super bad either, because I don't like to leave very, very bad review unless it's well deserved. But then if he actually never replied to me, but if he would have replied,
Yes.
I think everyone deserves a second chance. So I would have been okay to maybe try it again.
Yeah. And just to, in my most experience, like I know we had a bit of a situation where when we stayed in Brussels, but in my most recent experience here in Paris, it was around a hygiene situation, and it was actually my favorite creperie that I go to all the time. And I'd taken my friends, and then I saw a little mouse in the kitchen, which was crazy. And so even in my review, I mentioned that this used to be my favorite restaurant for crepes, but really it's not about the fact that I saw the mouse in the kitchen. It was the fact that even when I expressed it to the owners, they responded to me with a very chilled kind of response, like, did you see Mickey Mouse? So that was very interesting. And so I mentioned this in my review, and they actually responded, and they responded with an apology that was half an apology. And that's also not a good thing, because you really want to own and be accountable, instead of shifting the blame to your client or your guest. Instead, you stay with a professional tone, and this can really still shift the way you are perceived.
Yeah.
So now I bet you're wondering about the sectors that are most impacted, really, in terms of reviews and your business. So what we see here in this particular graph, we see that close to 40% of the reviews are really attested to bars and restaurants, which is what I've just mentioned now, of course, because really what you want to eat and the experience you want to have when you step outside of your home should be of this level. And then we go on to see that health ranks next. Particularly in this sector, of course, you want to be sure of the professional that you're trusting with your life, the kind of medication, the kind of the care that is being taken towards you. And then this is also closely followed around the hospitality area, which is in the hotel industry. Finally, we see a much lower ranking around banks and insurance agencies. Of course, banks and insurance agencies are also understanding that more and more how important it is to improve their ratings and their reviews and their reputation online, simply because people are concerned about who will help manage their funds. And similarly, we see, again, just to zone in on these details around the stats, we see here that 40% again is in the first place. And this is then really about this graph really looks at the people that are most attentive when it comes to reviews. And we see that health and care, again, ranks second place at 23%, tied with banks and insurance agencies. So consulting the ratings and reviews has become a reflex for many internet users, not only on Google, but other platforms like TripAdvisor and Fork. And also, it's an industry, it's also across all industries, and online reputation isn't traditionally very good, like I mentioned, for the banks and insurance agencies. And we are finding that they are making remedies towards improving their e-reputation. Finally, to just conclude with one of our other clients, Leroy Merlin, who this client, we have a few clients across the globe from Leroy Merlin, but this we will zone in particularly to Portugal, who have been a client since 2022, and their objectives was to manage the objectives were really to manage and respond to the high volume of reviews that they receive. It was to create a closer relationship with their customer and to increase the lifetime value through reputation management for customers as well. And we see some really excellent results here with a 14% increase in the reviews from 1 year to the next, a 200% increase in the average response time, as well as an 81% customer satisfaction in the responsive reviews. Really, what we've seen in the establishment of such a strong relationship is what they've highlighted has been the transparent collaboration with the Part2 team, and they recommend this service. And it's no wonder, since using Part2, that this year they managed to also feature in our 2023 barometer in our top 15 companies who best manage their e-reputation. So really, for me, I'm going to hand it over to Anto, who will look at this second last block for us.
Yes, this is the second and the last part of the session, so maybe the most interesting one, about the actions taken by the users. Now, our consumers, they have made a choice based on the criteria that we have already presented before. And now we jump into the perfect moment, the I want to buy moment, the moment that we are all interested about, when someone is ready to make the purchase and may need help deciding what to buy or how to buy it. So let's look at the four call to actions at this point that are available to the customer. Either he will message you with a Google Business Message. Either he will request for directions to go to the local establishment directly and become a new visitor, or they will be able to click on the website or give you a phone call. So we want to start with the numbers related to the messages, because it's new trendy habits that people have now since COVID. Many consumers, before going to a store, will message companies to find out more about specific product or services, to ask questions, for instance. In our study, we found that the preferred platform to talk to establishments are, in the first place, the messaging and social media apps with 53%, and in second, the website of the companies. Sorry, I had my phone ringing. And here at Part2, we share the view that the trend of the future of the internet is that more and more consumers will actually centralize all their action directly on the platform that they use in the daily life, where they carry out all the search. So based on Part2 consumers, we found out that there were 28 times more contacts and more interaction on those platforms rather than on the company website and the brand websites, which is quite an impressive data. And this is just an average. In some industry, we noticed that it's going to reach up to 100 times more contact. So you really want to take good care of those platforms where you can showcase your content. Now, most of the time, users can contact companies at an advanced stage of the buying process. So to schedule or make an appointment for 75% of them, or to request more information about a product or services. It's around half of them. Most requests are therefore qualified and valuable to your business. The challenge is then to ensure that these requests are received and processed very quickly with your team. For this, the chat via Google or the messaging platform like the social network like Facebook or Instagram, a messaging platform like WhatsApp, they will be very valuable to act quickly, and they will be a good ally to save some time and limit the lengthy phone conversation that your call center can have or your local teams could have. It's also less cost to manage because you can manage more conversation by chat than you can handle phone conversations. Many internet users will also continue to use the traditional channel to get in touch with your company. And it means your website, of course. This is the case for 47% of the respondents. However, the trend will be for sure in favor of social networks and messaging platform, the use of which continues to grow. It's around 67% of the consumer that currently use those platforms to talk to you. So sending messages has been sharply increasing, becoming an essential communication channel, especially among the young people. For instance, 25% of the 18 to 24 years old say that they use Google Map messages on a regular basis to communicate with local businesses.
So I'm just going to jump in there quickly, Anto, because we have a
Yeah.
question from Karina who says, does Part2 already have WhatsApp on its platform? So I'm
Hello,
going to
Karina. I didn't know that we had some client here at the moment. Perfect. Yeah, we don't yet have WhatsApp on the platform at the moment. It's the next platform that we will add. So far, we have Google Business Chat, we have Facebook Messenger, Instagram Messages, and WhatsApp will be live. We believe it's now being in the development process. So we believe it will be live in production mode by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So I would say end of 2023, maximum first quarter of 2024.
Yeah. Thanks, Anto.
So yes, now that all the doubts have been resolved for the consumer, he will now decide to be able to go to the store, because thanks to the chat, for instance, he had received all the information and the help that he needed to process with the buying. So either online, but most of them will also go offline. This is the ROPO effect: research online, purchase offline. Therefore, after making a direction request, the consumer usually goes to the establishment, to your store, in the same week for 34% of them, on the same day for 29% of them, at the same time, like directly for 14% of them, and in the same month maximum for 23% of them. Based on our clients, we also have this kind of data on how many actions are actually performed within their Google Business Profile listings per year or per week, as you can see on the slide. This data gives you a more tangible dimension of how the local SEO strategy effectively influence the purchasing journey of your consumer. Finally, now, I believe it's time to come to the last block of the session, where we will transform your happy clients into your best ambassadors. We know that the QR code is now part of the daily life of people, especially after the pandemic. It has become very convenient for a lot of sectors, such as the restaurant, where they already offer ordering and payments by QR code directly on the table. This is also something we actually provide with Part2, with a specific offer that is called Part2 Food. So if you have any restaurant, feel free to do a search on that. We would be happy to help. This technology of QR code can easily be used to collect review on site. As you can check data for yourself, 24% of the young people said that they are very happy to leave a review requested by the establishment using a QR code. 36% of the respondents still believe that a verbal request from a person on site, a salesman, is the best method to collect the reviews. And only 5% of the 50 to 64 years old people are willing to leave a review via QR code. So it's not really a surprise. The use of the QR code is much more developed among younger respondents. The more the age group increase, the less the QR code will be cited by the respondents. At Part2, we advise that a no request should be complemented with a tool to facilitate the collection of the reviews. The QR codes, or also the SMS, which has a lot of performances. To give you an idea, an SMS opening rate is 94%, when an email is only around 15%. So with that, you can directly talk with your customer and give them an easy way so that they can arrive directly on the review section on the Google profile, thanks to a link that would be very easy to send.
Thank you so much, Shanto. We also have just another question, and we'll in the moments I'll just interject. Sorry, it's around what if we have some fake negative reviews? What can we do about it? So I'll let you answer.
Yeah, so fake negative review, it's something really important. Actually, we just received a news from Google. It's on their official blog. They are going to trial with a company that was specialized in creating fake business profile and fake reviews. They generated hundreds of thousands of fake reviews. And so this shows that Google is actively committed to fight against fraud and fake reviews on its content. So the algorithm is becoming more and more intelligent over time to avoid those. But however, if you still are receiving some fake reviews, the best thing to do is to be able to flag them. And that way you will be able to ask Google to delete them if it's against the Google guidelines. Just know that you cannot delete on your own reviews or fake reviews, because only Google can do that, or only the user that actually led the reviews will be able to do this. So the best way is just to signal them, report them, make sure that it's against the Google guidelines, and then you will be able to have a case with Google and make them delete it. We know that it's not an easy task. So that's why at Part 2, we also provide in our services, we're not just a tool, but also a big team behind the tool that will help you for those kind of assignments. So we help our clients to report those reviews to make sure that we have a better link to the support of Google. Since we are one of the most trusted Google business partner, we have a special access to a special level of support at Google. So our team can take care of this and help you with that. We can't help you treat and have success on 100% of the reviews that you want to report, but we managed to have way more success than just you on your side trying to report them.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And Karina's also asked, do we know where the QR codes are most used and country-based? I think country-based could be a tricky one to say, but we like since the arrival of COVID, I would say it's been a boom. I'm South African and I live in Paris, and in South Africa, we use it in the supermarkets as well as restaurants. I would say this is the biggest area. And then following like a bank and insurance companies. And in France, high use in terms of restaurants, particularly not just for payments, but I guess on a review side of things. It is really quite a nice way to display it in your businesses, in your physical businesses, and it is a nice way to follow up even if you're sending it via online.
Yeah, and we mentioned QR codes and SMS, but there is another way too, through the messages. With the messages, you can directly send the link to leave reviews right away in the same platform. So that's super easy also, and very effective. So you can use WhatsApp, Google, Facebook Messenger, just send the link there. And we've seen very good results on the client that are doing that.
Thank you, Anto.
Thank you for all the questions. So as a conclusion, I think that the trend is very clear. Consulting reviews is part of the buying process for consumers, and this is even more true for the new generation who feel more comfortable by trusting communities. In fact, nearly 59% of the young people consult review at least once a month. So the point of sales have no control over the content of review that are authentic reflections of the customer experience offered. And this is what gives them all their value and impact. So again, that's why you should be reassured. Google is making all efforts possible to make sure that they can control the fake reviews. Retailers should encourage their customers to speak up, to share their experience. For this, it is important to diversify the channel of acquisition, just like we mentioned, according to the type of customer. You must also accept the feedback that is not always positive, because if you have fake reviews, it's one thing, but just not being happy about a bad review that is okay, that is okay with the guidelines and that is about your services, well, it's not about that you should be mad of. It's more about the service that was not great for the customer. And so you can consider those feedback and those reviews as a gold mine of feedback to analyze everything that you could improve better. So it's always a way to win new customers. And the study shows that 81% of the respondents say that they will systematically read the owner's response to their negative review. Therefore, the reaction that you will have to this review will then be very considered by the consumer who left it, and it will also guide the next actions of those consumers.
Yes.
Of course, we live in 2023, so the use of technologies such as data analytics and AI can also help you to have a better knowledge of everything that is written in the reviews.
Yes, I totally agree. Well, thank you so much for wrapping that up for us, Anto. Without further ado, I just also invite you to download our full study. I've shared it here in the chat if you so wish to go more into it. And we've had a really great session. And so I'm just going to zoom past these other parts, which, of course, you've heard a little bit about part 2. And really, our unique platform is really to help you businesses to get closer to your clients. And our offerings are really pillared against the Get Found and Get Chosen across our products, which are the presence management, store locator, which complements our presence management, the review management, which is really what we have been focusing on here. Also, that helps in terms of e-reputation. Finally, also in boosting your reviews, which we've spoken about previously through methods like QR code or messages. And of course, our messages offering that helps you to convert and connect with your business, with your users through messages. So some of our clients, just to mention a few across the globe. And we invite you to also just take note of our contact details should you wish to look into more around your e-reputation, particularly those people that had voted that they are not focusing on reviews in terms of their digital strategy. We really encourage you to take action. We are at the middle of the year, so it's a good moment to re-strategize, rethink your priorities as well. And so thank you, Anto, for your collaboration on this webinar. Thank you everyone for your attendance, and don't forget to download the consumer study that I've shared here in the link. I'm going to bid you farewell, and I see some people are typing just in case there are last questions. Otherwise, yes, thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Cheers.
Thank you, everyone. Cheers.